The S&B Cold Air that we have with us here today would be an awesome choice for the 2019 and newer 5.3 Sierra owners who might be after one of the nicest sealed enclosure cold air intakes, in my humble opinion, all at a very attractive price point. Now, this no tune required S&B will feature the durable ABS plastic build, including your roto-molded plastic intake tube, really nice molded air box here with removable plug, in addition to maybe one of the largest dry filters in the category, all for that low $400 price point. All right, guys, let's get into our features block here. A lot to talk about. And first and foremost, I do want to point out the fact that you are getting a sealed enclosure, and not just any sealed enclosure, a very well-designed option here that in and of itself is loaded with features. For instance, you do have a clear plexiglass window that is etched with the S&B logo that will allow you to keep an eye on the cleanliness of your filter long term. I like that. You are also getting this removable plug, which will introduce a little bit more sound or engine growl under hard acceleration. Now, that's not something you typically get with a sealed enclosure. Typically, if you want all that extra noise, you got to go with an open enclosure, an open element design, which, listen, you get a lot of sound from those systems, but they also let a lot of hot engine bay air into the system itself. And that's why I always recommend a sealed enclosure for owners who value performance over everything. Listen, heat is the enemy of performance, and by keeping that filter isolated from that hot engine bay air, ultimately you're going to help keep those intake air temperatures down and repeatable performance up. Now, in addition to that, you're also outflowing your factory system by over 50% according to S&B. So not only will that lead to high single-digit, low double-digit gains without any tuning, but it will also increase things like your throttle response as well. All right, features aside, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this system, and let's talk construction here. And what do you say we start with this filter, man? Because check this thing out. It is absolutely giant. This is the S&B Signature Dry Filter, and it's easily one of the largest in the category for your 5.3 at home. Now, general rule of thumb when considering an oiled versus a dry filter is that oil filters will outflow dry filters slightly, but ultimately dry filters will capture more particles. Another thing to keep in mind here, guys, is that oiled filters, while they can be maybe a little bit more deeper cleaned, they do require a re-oiling, which can be a little bit clumsy if you've never done it. And it's just one less thing you have to worry about here with the dry filter. So either way, the difference in flow is pretty minute overall and really shouldn't sway any owners. The maintenance thing is, I would think, what is going to sway people into a dry versus an oiled filter. Now, other than that, guys, we did talk about the roto-molded plastic tube here, which I love as well from a heat perspective. This is going to be really good at reducing heat soak long term. And then we have to find our way over to the computer designed air box. This is also a molded plastic material, guys. And again, you do have a lot going on, as we mentioned earlier. Your filter is going to go right into the enclosure like so. And then obviously your tube's going to go into that. You do have that clear plexiglass window to talk about that will allow you to keep an eye on things long term with regards to the cleanliness of your filter. And then we also talked about this really cool feature as well. This is something not all of the intake companies are doing. And I do like the fact that it does give owners the ability to get a little bit more sound out of the system in exchange for maybe a little bit more heat into the filter. So outside of that, really solid build quality here, and you are getting all of your couplers, hardware, all that great stuff needed for a pretty simple install. All right, moving into price point here, guys. Again, you have a lot of options in the category, but for my money, the S&B is one of the nicer options when it comes to giving you all of the features with that sealed enclosure, and it is going to land in that low $400 price range, give or take a bit, which does put this in line with other sealed enclosures from companies like Air Raid, Corsa, and Volant, just to name a few. Now, if you did want to forego that sealed enclosure, you can certainly save some money and go with one of those open element systems we talked about that will certainly deliver a little bit more noise. And of course, you can find the rest of our selection here at AT if you wanted to browse a bit more before making your final decision. All right, last but not least, now let's segue into the installation, and the site's gonna call this a soft 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you about 30 minutes or so to complete from start to finish. But now to give you a better idea of how this one might go down on your Sierra at home, let's throw it out to the shop for our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
Tools required for this install include a ratchet, clip remover tool, Phillips head screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, T20 Torx driver, diagonal cutters, 4mm Allen wrench, T15 Torx wrench, 10mm ratcheting wrench, 3/4 inch wrench, an extension, 1/4 inch socket, and 8 and 10mm sockets. What's up guys? Today we're installing an intake on our Sierra, so let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is remove our mass airflow sensor. We've got one connector we're gonna disconnect, and then we're gonna take a T20 Torx driver to remove the 2 screws and pull our sensor out. So we need to push back on this red locking tab to pop that out of place. And then press in on that tab. To pop your connector off. And then take that T20 Torx driver and remove your 2 screws. And then carefully slide your sensor out. So now we're gonna get our intake tube out of the way. We've got a clamp on our air box, a clamp on our throttle body, and then our PCV line that we need to disconnect. So take a 7mm socket for your 2 clamps. Loosen those up. And then on our PCV line, we have a clip we're just gonna push in, and then we can just pull backwards to disconnect that. And now with all those out of there, you can wiggle that off the throttle body, and then wiggle your tube off the air box. And now we're gonna remove the top half of our intake box. I've got a screw here and a screw here. There's also one in the back that we'll get in a minute. Grab an 8mm socket and pull those out. And now we'll get that last one at the back here. And then with all of our screws removed, we can pick up, slide that out, and then we'll pop out our air filter as well. So now we're gonna work on getting the lower half of our air box out of here. We gotta get this big connector off the bracket as well as remove this nut. So I'm gonna grab a 10mm socket and get the nut out of there first. And then on the back of the connector here, you're gonna go into that hole and pry backwards on that black tab. This is the tab right here. You just need to pull that back, slide that off. So now on that big connector that we just removed, we're gonna follow the wires each way, and we've got one clip on either side. So get a clip remover tool, pop those out of the air box, and then we'll go to the other side, pop that one out, and then we can work on wiggling our air box out of the grommets. And now we're gonna hop back over to our passenger side valve cover and fully disconnect our PCV line. So you can rotate this around here to get access to that push tab. And you're just gonna push in on that, and that's gonna open up the clip so that you can slide it right off. So now we're gonna start off by assembling our air box. We've got a lot of little grommets, plugs, and this window to look into our air box with that we need to get installed. So I'm gonna start with all our rubber pieces, and then I'll move on to the grommets and the clip for that big connector that we removed. So I'm gonna start off with our little window. Now it's pretty obvious which way this fits in. So we're just gonna slide it into that groove and work our way around. And then once we have that together, we're just gonna find the opening where it lines up and slide that in. And now on the back side, we have this channel that's gonna slide in here. Just line that up, start pressing it down and in. You can get behind it and work it over that lip from the back. Then we'll rotate to the side here. Now we've got this plug. This is optional. You can install this or not. If you want a little more airflow, you can leave it open. But since it's included in the kit, I'm gonna press it in. So it's gonna be the same idea as the other one. You got the channel that's just gonna clip into place. And then we'll rotate it over. This is where our inlet duct is going to go into. Now you want the smooth side facing away. You've got this side with this inner lip. You want that facing inside of your air box. Same idea as the other two, just get it in that channel. Next, we're going to come to this little standoff with the hole. We've got a grommet. That's the same idea as all the other ones. It's got that ridge that's going to sit in there. Slide that in. And then you've got that sleeve that's going to go in the bottom here. Work that into your grommet, get a finger on it from the inside so you don't push the grommet out. Next, we've got our clip for that large connector. That's going right on this rib nut. So slide your Allen bolt through and grab a 4mm Allen wrench and tighten that down. Next, we'll get our grommets onto these two posts. So you're just going to slide those on. And then we've got these Phillips head self-tapping screws. You're going to put that right in the center of your grommet and you're going to run it into the air box. So grab a Phillips head screwdriver and just find the center there. Push it through and start threading it in. Do the same thing on the other one. Next, we're going to start setting up our intake tube. I've got our mass airflow sensor here we're going to get started off with. We have a foam gasket that's going to go down, followed by a little plate. And then we're going to slide our MAP sensor in, and we've got a couple new Phillips head screws to install it with. So now lay down that foam gasket, line up your bolt holes. And then your cover. And then you can slide your mass airflow sensor into place. Now this will only fit in one direction. If you have it flipped around, your bolt holes aren't going to line up. So then drop in your new screws and take a Phillips head screwdriver to start threading them in. And then once we have that done, we can rotate it around. We're going to install our PCV fitting. So this will just thread right into that hole. Thread it in as far as you can by hand. And then just take a 3/4 inch wrench. And then just turn it until it stops. It's a plastic fitting, so don't go crazy. And now the last bit of assembly we have before we can start building this up on the truck is to assemble our PCV line. We've got our two fittings that are going to slide into either side of the line and our two clamps that we're going to use to tighten them down. So make sure you slide those clamps on first. and then press in your fitting on both sides. And then you're going to slide your clamps into place and take a 1/4 inch socket and tighten them down. And then just give your fitting a tug, make sure it's not going anywhere, and then you'll be good to go. So now it's time for the fun part of getting our air box in there. Now we have our air inlet tube down here that we need to slide into this grommet. So slide this in, start getting it lined up. You're gonna have to get your grommets underneath of all your wires and lines back here. So now our new air box is a lot bigger than our factory one, so we're having a little bit of trouble getting that in. So to help with this, I'm gonna pull off this radiator cover. We have a couple clips on our air intake duct that we can pull out so that we can shift that out of the way to make it a little bit easier to get this into place. So now grab a T15 T-handle Torx wrench and remove the 2 screws holding on our handle for a hood latch. Then you can slide that off. And then just grab your clip remover tool. We've got a bunch of clips holding this in. Just pop all those out and then we can lift this right off. And then with all those clips removed, pop off your rad cover. We're gonna come over to our intake duct now. We've got a clip. Pop that clip out. And then we have access to shift this around to get it into our box. So now with the room we need, we can get our grommets pressed into our bracket and the grommet up here drop down onto that stud. And now we're just going to maneuver our air duct into our air box. So you can get one hand down here behind the headlight, one hand on your duct, and then you can see through the gap there. Pop that into place, and then grab the push clip for your air duct. Pop that in, and now we can reinstall that rad cover. So now line up your rad cover, drop that on, and then reinstall all of your push clips. And then once you have all those in, slide your handle back on. Thread in your 2 Torx screws. Take your T15 and tighten that down. Next, we're gonna have to reach down inside our airbox and reinstall that nut onto that stud down here. Now, there's no possible way to see this. Just gonna have to do it by feel. Thread that nut on and then grab a 10mm ratcheting wrench and tighten it down. And now we can come over to this big connector here, and we're just gonna slide that onto this post. Clip it into place. Now that we're done with everything with our airbox, we can slide our filter in. Just slide it in and then press it until it seats into that channel. Up next, we have our extension harness for the mass airflow sensor, since we're relocating it over here. So grab your connector, plug it in, and then press that red locking tab down into place. And we'll just lay this across the radiator for now and get our coupler and our intake tube installed. Now, we've got two different couplers you could use here for two different size throttle bodies. They're both reducer couplers, so just pick the one that fits well. See, this one does not fit at all. So we're gonna get the smaller one, slide a clamp on there, and then that's a nice snug fit over the throttle body. Get it seated all the way on there. Get your bigger clamp on the other side, and then we can grab our intake tube and we're gonna connect that into the throttle body and then up to our air filter. Then you can grab your 8mm socket to tighten down your two clamps. Make sure your clamp's seated in that gap. Now I'm going to install our new PCV hose. Press that on until you get the click, then go down to the other side. Press that on until you get the click. And then I'm going to take my mass airflow sensor connector. I'm actually going to run this behind our intake tube and then connect that up to our sensor. Next, we just have to zip tie our mass airflow sensor harness up out of the way. Now, we've got a hole right here that we're going to use the included zip tie clip for. So wrap that around your wire. I'm going to leave it loose for now. Press it into that hole. And I'm not going to tighten enough to pinch the wire, but just well enough so that it doesn't move around too easily. And then just take scissors or diagonal cutters and cut off the excess of that zip tie. And now I've got another hole right down here. I'm just going to put one more of those zip tie clips here to hold that MAF sensor wire. So loosely wrap it around there and then press your clip into place. And then just neatly run it, tighten it down, and clip your zip tie. And then while we're over here, last thing we gotta do is just tighten down the clamp on our air filter. So once again, take your 8mm socket, tighten that down, and we'll wrap this up. And just give a nice tug on your intake tube, make sure you're nice and tight, and you're good to go. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the S&B Cold Air Intake with Dry Extendable Filter for your 2019 and newer 5.3 liter Sierra 1500. Thank you for watching, and for all things Sierra, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.